Hey, how's it going, everybody? So I wanted to show real quick this Python program that I've been working on. Um, this is going to basically fit into my engine project as somewhere more or less. How I got here is right. I'm making a Python microservice to plug into my engine's application that you're seeing to be able to plot the temperature on a curve to make a temperature curve from the engine data that we'll be sending to it. And part of this is basically I'm trying to figure out a way to possibly take the information from the web view, right, and somehow scan it and maybe return the information to your phone, or basically just have a QR code you can scan your phone, and then you can get the same temperature curve and other diagnostic information readout from a QR code. So when you scan it, it'll be on your phone. And I've worked with QR codes before in Python, actually in the context of multicolored QR codes, which is actually a really interesting concept. And there's actually a few really interesting research papers that maybe, I don't know, if I find them, I'll post the link to them. But they're basically describing using multicolored QR codes as a way to, one, store more data, but two, be able to leverage the concept of steganography, which is basically like embedding or hiding data more or less in plain sight. So it manipulates individual pixels of the RGB color spectrum. So if you have like 255, 255, 254, that one change in the last one is a representation of basically data. So you can essentially hide an encoding in the pixel, and you won't even know it from the just looking at it with your eye. And they're using multicolor barcodes to do this, because or QR codes, because right, you have, instead of just black, white, you have red, green, blue, and all the values in between. I think it's also possible to get a fourth color by way of what's left, meaning like the transparent layer, it just inherently present when you overlap three QR codes on top of each other. That's a really interesting concept. And then this paper actually was talking about cryptography, and they applied quantum cryptographic methods to basically embed a key in the QR code that can only be decrypted by a specific process. So where I'm getting with that is I want to, I've worked on a little bit of this in the past, just with something I did in Python. So essentially, I'm making another version right now, but I'll show you where I'm at. So Python's really good because you can do a lot of powerful stuff with not a lot of code, and it's pretty quick. So I have this really rough layout. So enter data. I'm just gonna say for my data, hello, and then the second QR code, world. Oops, what did I do? Hello world, and then the last one will do my name, Steven. And then I can plug in a certain key, so whatever I want to encrypt this with. So I'll encrypt that one with 1, 2, and 3. So if I go ahead and embed the key into the QR code, right? So contained in that QR code is now a hidden key. So 1. So if I were to scan this with my phone, I would get a readout of hello, but the value of 1 is hidden in there, and you won't know it, right? And if I plug in a whole bunch of keys, it doesn't change the actual QR code. It looks identical. So if I want to actually read the QR code, I set up some logic to check my password against that hidden key. So if I try to read it, it's going to say code failed, password did not match. But if I take that and plug it into my password field, then it'll scan the QR code and tell me what data is in there. So some applications of this. I'm not again. This is that people have done this, but this is a really unique application in the sense that you can create a QR code, but essentially lock it for only people who have the key to decrypt the key in the QR code. So it makes it a little secure. There's a lot of applications you can do with this, but again, you can see if I do two, let's embed that one, and then I can read it, and then that'll be red, green, and blue. And then you can kind of see where I'm going with this, right? So I'm going to take those 3 QR codes, then I'm still working on this, but I have to overlay them to make a multicolor QR code. And then it'll output into a single file. So theoretically, you could get 3 times the amount of data contained in a single QR code. Obviously, there's some limitations with that. And obviously, then you're presented with, okay, we have to make a scanner for that, right? If I try to scan that with my phone, it's not gonna do that, right? Because my phone's QR reader is not set to read the RGB spectrum of each of the QR codes. So we'd have to essentially make a new scanner, more or less, if we actually wanted to make this in a practical setting. But it's entirely possible, right? It's just, you can do it in Python code. It's just putting it on this would the phone would take a little bit of maneuvering, but it's possible. So where I'm going with this is I want to embed this capability inside my engine's application somehow. So whenever we actually, because I have this right now just in my Python engine temperature service currently. I'm probably just going to move a lot of this code right now. This is literally just in the main file. I'm going to move this off into its own file and then continue work to actually make my graphing code on the Python microservice and then connect it to RabbitMQ. Once I do that, and I'll come back to this. I just want to get kind of a head start and work on this because I think QR codes and really barcode technology in general is very neat. And also steganography, if you ever look into that, is an incredibly interesting topic, and there's a lot of really interesting papers out there. I'm not really into the math side of it, but I think the practical side and like what you can do just from code like Python is just crazy, right? Like if we actually look at the code, we can go here and you can see pretty much what happens. Let me go to, all you have to do to make a QR code in Python is add a couple libraries and literally it's what is that, 5 lines of code, and that's it. So it's just like it's crazy how powerful so many of these libraries are, and you can see the libraries I'm using. Like what's QR code, and then to read it, you use this ZXing, and then Stegano is a steganography library. I'm sure you can do that yourself, but it's readily available in there. So yeah, that's a really interesting concept though. So if you're ever looking for something to read or any papers, definitely check out that topic for sure. And again, a lot of this code is easily generated by ChatGPT. So you can have a working example of this in a matter of 5 minutes, which it just blows my mind how the tooling that we have at our disposal to make really neat stuff. It's just like taking all the bits and pieces of all the neat things that we can make and then, coming together and making something that actually functions as a system as opposed to just all these independent, things running. So this isn't really a stand-up today. This was just kind of a more or less of an update as to what I've just been working on in Python. So this is, yeah, that's all I got really for today. As far as the Rust microservice though, I don't think I've touched it since the last video. I posted some random video about my desk setup, mainly because I had the footage just kind of sitting there, and I had like these like two random screen recordings of just like Rust programming that I felt like I should do something with. So I just coupled that with a little desk setup video. It's not. It was kind of just more of I needed something to do with the footage. So yeah, I'm also going through this really interesting book with Python. Now my mind's in Python world, but it's basically machine learning in Python. So hopefully I'll get through that as well as the Rust book. Yeah, there's so many interesting things out there to learn. It's just crazy. Like, yeah, I get really excited about it. Anyway, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.